In this video, I'm gonna share the exact same storyline that I use in my webinars to generate more qualified leads. You ready? Let's get it going. What's good, everybody? Greg Hickman here with Systemly at System.ly, and this is the channel where we talk about how to automate and scale your business. So if you're looking for the latest tips, strategies, and tools to do so, be sure to subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell because we release a video every single Tuesday. So maybe you're in a mastermind or you work with a coach or you bought a course and you've been wanting to do webinars in your business, or maybe you've been using webinars in your business and they just haven't been generating the results that you've been hoping for. Well, in this video, I want to break down my simple storyline for how you can structure and create a webinar that will generate more qualified leads for your client business. So let's look at a webinar and make an assumption that your webinar is going to be 60 minutes long. Now, if your webinar ends up being shorter, just use each of these, use this as a frame of reference for about how long you should be spending on each section that we're gonna dive into. So let's break it down. When you're jumping into a webinar, typically you're sharing no more than 3 to 5 key points that are going to help kind of educate and really add the most value for your client. So I always like to allocate time for those first, and ideally you're using 3. I've always found that when you add 5, it kind of shortens the amount of time that you have to cover each, making it a little less powerful. So let's assume there are 3 core buckets and assume that my drawings are about, these are all equal in size. That looks about right. So we have 1 content block, 2 content blocks, and 3 content blocks. This is the meat and potatoes. This is the transformational content that you're going to be giving to your prospects to help filter out the wrong leads and move the ready leads to be ready to have a conversation with you. So if we have the 3 core content blocks, we need to obviously set the conversation up. So when we start the conversation, one thing that I see a lot of people miss is to really pre-qualify the people that are coming onto the training in the first place, right? We want only the most qualified people to stay on the presentation. So in the first few minutes, we're gonna call this the setup. Now, in the setup, what we're really covering is who should be here, who this is not for. This is where you get to really call out your ideal prospect. Hey, so if you're tuning in and you are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you are in the right place. But if you are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is probably not the content for you. You can obviously stay and enjoy it, but you're probably not going to be able to execute on this, etc. So that few minutes right there is right out of the gates, letting people know who this is for, and you're starting to filter out who should be on that training and really starting to speak to your ideal prospect. So in the setup, you're going to be breaking down who this is for, if they're in the right place, who should be there, and if they're not in the right place, that they're in the wrong place. So shortly after that, or immediately after that, real quick, we're gonna hit on the agenda. The agenda is essentially a section of the training, a few minutes, probably 3 to 5 tops, where you're gonna share with your prospect the 3 to 5 big takeaways. That number should correlate to whichever number you're looking at for your core content buckets. So you're gonna basically say, hey, if you stay till the end of this webinar, you're going to learn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all right? That's what happens in the agenda. Now, within the agenda, right after, you're gonna wanna squeeze in a short amount of time where you talk about your bio. Now, I've already noticed I'm using different colors, so roll with me. This is where you're gonna do your bio. This is essentially your authority. Why should people be listening to you? Really build your credibility. Why should they be listening to you about the content that you're going to be jumping into? So the next part is the pre-frame, and this is really where you have that aha moment or the discovery that you share with your prospects that led you to the content that you're about to be sharing. So, hey, prospect, I've been doing XYZ, and what I realized was that everyone was telling me to do 1, 2, 3, and those were the complete opposite of the things that I should have been doing. So I want to share what I learned and how I flipped the script and I'm now doing it a different way. Now, one really easy way to frame this up is, depending upon what you're selling and what you're doing, there's probably in some way, shape, or form the old way of doing things versus the new way of doing things. So you can present the old versus the new. So now you've hit the pre-frame and you said, okay, look, this is what brought me to this moment and this is what and where you might be. Here are the 3 things that now you might need to change or think about differently to achieve desired result, right? And this is where you jump into your 3 content blocks. Now, the 3 content blocks actually have the same exact formula. So no matter which one of these you're in, we have the same story structure. So we start off with sort of like I'll call it in this case, the shift. You'll see a lot of people say, hey, secret number 1, or shift number 1, or mistake number 1, or misbelief number 1. This is sort of like the stake in the ground for number 1, right? So here's the thing. Now we jump into the old way of it, then we compare that to the new way of it. So each of our 3 core content blocks are gonna follow the exact same structure. We're gonna identify the shift, we're gonna share the old way of doing it and then the new way. So the shift, the old way, the new way, and then we're gonna basically share, if you don't change anything, here's what life is going to look like. But if you make the shift, here's why it's gonna be great. So as an example, in our business, we work with a lot of clients that are selling high ticket services and they want to be more scalable and they think that they need to jump all the way down to selling courses and digital products that are like a couple $100s. And so the shift is to actually start at the top of the ladder and work themselves downward. Whereas, so the old example would be, hey, so you've been taught to give away a bunch of free stuff, then ask for a sale that's, a low ticket sale, and then those people you want to upgrade to a more expensive thing, and then a more expensive thing at the top. And that takes a really long time to work up the ladder. So that would be my example of the old way. And then I'd shift and say, well, if you want to really make your business more scalable, what you should do is exactly what Tesla did. And I called it the Tesla method, which is the reverse. They sell the most expensive thing first, then they make it a little bit more accessible by lowering the price, removing some access, and then they have their mass market product. So the old way is going up the ladder, the new way is going down the ladder. And so then I would basically say, look, if you keep going up the ladder, this is why it's gonna suck and this is why it's gonna take forever. But if you start going down the ladder, this is why you're gonna get to your results faster, make more money in less time. Make sense? So each of these 3 core blocks follow this exact same structure. So whatever your shift is, just drop it into this framework and you'll be just fine. Now, the last few pieces, one is the recap, right? High level, you want to basically revisit. Over here in the agenda, you basically said, these are the 3 to 5 things we're going to cover. In your recap, you're basically just going to go back and confirm that you delivered on your promise from the agenda. So you could almost show the exact same slide and just high level talk about how you answered each of those agenda items. Then you have the call to action. In this case, if you're selling services, anything really over $3,000 or any sort of monthly retainer, you're likely going to be driving to an application. So this is where you'd say, hey, I set aside some time to be speaking with you if you're interested in having us apply this to your business. So go visit this URL, answer a couple questions, and you're going to speak to someone on our team. Right? So this is basically just a call to action for them to go get on your calendar. Now, if you're actually selling a digital course or something like that, there's a completely different storyline that you would actually use. We can cover that in a different video. But if you're selling services, more often than not, you're going to be driving into some sort of consultation or application. So that's where you've got your call to action. And really, the last part would be the frequently asked questions. Now, if you're doing this live, you're going to want to keep the call to action somewhere on the screen while you're answering the questions. But if you are doing an automated webinar, what you're probably going to want to do is plan to have 1 to 5 common questions that you're going to answer that you've probably gotten when you did them live to begin with. And you're going to answer those questions for your prospects and close out again with your final call to action, which is really just you using the same slide over here. Awesome, so now you have the bulletproof formula for creating a webinar that will convert. Now, this is part 1 of a multiple part series where we're dissecting the top 4 types of videos that the best online marketers are using. So today we covered the webinar. If you didn't see the 4 types video, be sure to click right up here and you can watch the 4 different types. But in the next video, we're going to be sharing a little bit more about the story architecture for how you should be considering using live video like Instagram stories and or Facebook lives. Now, if you found value from this video, show us the love by clicking the like button. And if you're not subscribed, be sure to click the subscribe button and that notification bell. And I would love for you to share your biggest takeaway from this story architecture in the comment section below. I'll meet you down there and we'll have a conversation. Take care.